Welcome back to the program. So Jeff gave me the night off. He was doing something in Louisiana, some type of an event. I think he was moderating a debate or something to that nature. So I'll be back on his show next week. But, natural selection is a beautiful thing. And we talk about Trump derangement syndrome, and we talk about it as a joke. We talk about it as a meme. We talk about it as, just something that when we can't understand why liberals think a certain way, we just say, oh, well, they have Trump derangement syndrome. Well, Trump derangement syndrome is real. It truly is real. And honestly, it should be designated as an illness by the American Medical Association. But it also can be fatal. And it can be fatal because those that oppose this president just for the mere sake of opposing what he says and does could at times take their own lives into their hands. We have now seen numerous hospitalizations, and potentially even one person has died from defying President Trump when he said, if you're pregnant, don't take acetaminophen, don't take Tylenol, it's not good for you. And then we saw, and I actually predicted it, as soon as the press conference was over, I said to my wife, I guarantee you, we are going to see pregnant women on TikTok, and they're going to be guzzling down Tylenols to despite President Trump. That indeed is Trump derangement syndrome at its finest. Well, it is an absolute fact now that Tylenol, acetaminophen, actually does cause autism. I am going to give you the proof, as I always do, and I'm going to give it to you with 46 different studies that have come together, and they have put it all together and said, yep, it is absolutely true. As a matter of fact, Tylenol themselves, the company, in 2017 put out a text saying, if you're pregnant, you shouldn't use our product, okay? Actually, that was in Jason Alborn's show the other day. He actually had a memo, an image of it up. So let's talk about this. This is Mount Sinai Medical Center. This is not some, hokey doke hospital chain. This is one of the best hospital chains, not just in America, but probably the world, okay? Mount Sinai Medical Center. Prenatal acetaminophen exposure increases the risk of autism and ADHD in children, according to analysis from 46 global studies. Amid growing concern over neurodevelopmental disorders, a recent study from Mount Sinai Medical Center has reignited the debate surrounding acetaminophen, commonly known as paracetamol, or, as it's known over the counter, Tylenol. This analgesic, used by over 50% of pregnant women worldwide to relieve pain and fever, may be linked to an increased risk of autism and even attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD in children. The report, published in August of 2025 in the journal Environmental Health, analyzed 46 previous studies from international groups. It applied the navigation guide methodology, a rigorous framework for evaluating environmental evidence. The findings show a consistent association with prenatal acetaminophen exposures increasing the risk of autism by more than 19%. So what does that mean? That means from their own study, that's 1 in 19 children. ADHD by 26% as well. Let's see. Didier Prada, medical doctor, PhD, and lead researcher at the Icahn School of Medicine in Mount Sinai Medical Center, emphasized, our findings indicate that higher quality studies are more likely to show this link between prenatal acetaminophen exposure and elevated risks of autism and ADHD. The analysis included 20 studies on ADHD, 8 on autism, and 18 on other neurodevelopmental disorders. This is not an isolated finding. A 2019 Johns Hopkins study based on umbilical cord blood samples from 996 children found that high doses and levels of acetaminophen levels tripled the risk of autism up to 362% and doubled the risk of ADHD by 286%. Now, again, this was 996 children, and it was based on the umbilical cord blood samples. Researchers measured metabolites in blood at birth and followed those children for an average of 9 years. Another study funded by the NIH in 2025 confirms similar patterns exist. The middle third of exposure increased the risk of ADHD and also autism by as many as 26%. Okay? So you have 19%, you have 26%. You can see clearly. This data comes from cohorts such as the Boston Birth Cohort and the Nurses' Health Study. The underlying biology points to concerning mechanisms concerning acetaminophen, and it crosses the placental barrier, and this can induce oxidative stress, disrupting the hormones and causing epigenetic changes that interfere with fetal brain development. The risk appears heightened in the third trimester when the brain develops rapidly. In September of 2025, the US FDA responded with a letter to clinicians initiating changes to product labels like Tylenol. It cited, quote, accumulated evidence of an association with autism and ADHD, recommending minimal doses or no use at all, especially in the third trimester. So we saw the RFK Jr. press conference along with, of course, President Trump, and he said very strongly, do not take Tylenol. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. Now, even if this is wrong, which of course it's not, why not just listen? Why not, not be so stupid and so arrogant and so anti-Trump that you would put the risk of not just yourself, but your unborn baby at risk? Doesn't make any sense to me. So we'll see what happens. The only thing that's going to prove this is time. As time goes on, if the autism and ADHD rates decrease, hoping that many women out there are going to actually not fight President Trump and RFK Jr. and what they're referring to, and instead say, well, maybe I ought to listen to them and actually do the right thing and not take it, maybe we'll start to see those levels that used to be 1 in 20,000, 1 in 15,000, 1 in 10,000 in the 60s and 70s, and even in the 80s. And then what? Then it was Big Pharma. Big Pharma got to make that money, right? All these years, think about this, all these years, they could have done a study like this. But why didn't they? Well, I already told you why. Follow the money. They don't want you. It's a huge industry. The pain reliever industry is gigantic. Billions, maybe even trillions of dollars in profits. So something like this is going to hurt. It's going to cut into those profits. But it's not about profits over people. It is people over profits. It is real healthcare, real science, not the made up stuff. And it's more than anything else, not hurting another generation of children. Imagine if we could get to a point where we barely even have autism and ADHD and Asperger's. Maybe it's as simple as not taking pain relievers. I'm a guy, I've never been pregnant, I can't get pregnant, so I don't know the pain, and I don't even pretend to know the pain. I have had a kidney stone before, and I've heard that that's pretty close, but I don't think it probably is. I'm sure that childbirth is very painful for women. But what about the child? It's not about you. See, this is where my pro-life feelings come into play more than anything else, because if you're pro-life, you want to protect that child. It's not about you. It's not about your pain. It's not about your suffering. It's about what are you doing to that child? And that's why so many of us on the right are pro-life, because we don't want to hurt that baby. We don't want to, make this baby not have a chance at life? What if they were going to be born completely healthy? But yet we introduce them in utero to acetaminophen, and the next thing you know, it affects their brain as it's developing, and then we have more autism. So again, I don't have all the answers here. All I can say is more than likely over time, the next, 18 months minimum to 2 to 3 years, when they redo these studies, we're going to find out, is autism, ADHD, Asperger's, these neurological issues, are they going down? Are they staying the same? Or, God forbid, are they going back up? Okay? I don't know. My guess is that I'm going to trust the professionals, okay? RFK Jr., Bhattacharya, the guy that runs NIH right now, all of these people that are surrounding NIH, Trump, FDA, CDC. Now we finally have real people with real skills in these positions. I'm going to listen to the experts, and I hope and pray that pregnant women in America and around the world do the exact same thing. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to the program. So let's talk about this new peace deal that President Trump is trying to get Israel and Palestine, or Palestinian Authority, or Hamas, or whatever, to sign. And it's got 20 different parts, and we'll go through and talk about it. But I can tell you right off the bat, where's the meat? In other words, where is the enforcement of this? I think that right now is a major issue. But let's talk about it, okay? So the president has a comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. And here's what it is. Gaza will be de-radicalized and a terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Wonderful. Obviously, we don't want terrorists, and we want to de-radicalize any area of the world, especially the Muslim world. But how are you going to do it? That's what I want to know. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. Okay, fair enough. If both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the completed staged withdrawal. Okay, what are those conditions? That's what we need to find out. Within 72 hours, Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Once all the hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life-sentenced prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th of 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage who remains and are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Okay, right there I have a little bit of an issue. Why would we release 250 life sentence prisoners? These are people that obviously butchered and murdered Jews. Why would we have this as part of the deal? Doesn't make any sense to me. Not to mention 1,700 Gazans that were detained after October 7th. Again, I don't like that. Once all the hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid qualities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19, 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, water, electricity, sewage, etc., rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open roads. Are our tax dollars going to pay to rebuild Gaza? Because I'm not a fan of that either. Entry of distribution and aid into the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations. Oh yeah, there's a wonderful organization that we can trust, right? Sure, the United Nations. Give me a break. The United Nations have been accused of raping women in other countries, drug trafficking with Mexico and other countries, and we're going to have the United Nations? Really? You mean the ones where 3/4 of the people just walked right out before Netanyahu could even give his speech? And we're going to count on the United Nations to be some type of peacekeeping, or I don't know, what proceed with interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies, the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the January 19th, 2025 agreement. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza under such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program as outlined in various proposals, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on the best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the most thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. Many thoughtful investment proposals and exciting development ideas have been crafted by well-meaning international groups and will be considered to synthesize the security and governance framework to attract and facilitate these investments that will create jobs, opportunity, and hope for future in Gaza. A special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. No one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. Hamas and other factions agreed to not have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly, indirectly, or in any form. All military terror and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. There will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supporting an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. Well, last time we had independent monitors was in Iraq, and pretty sure that Saddam Hussein kicked out the, quote, international monitors that were looking at his nuclear program and kicked them out of the country. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to a peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations and that New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. It's almost done. the United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF will train and provide support to vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. This force will be the long-term internal security solution. The ISF will work with Israel and Egypt to help secure border areas, along with newly trained Palestinian police forces. It is critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by the parties. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israeli Defense Forces will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between the IDF, the ISF, the guarantors, and the United States, with the objective of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel. Egypt or its citizens, the IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory that it occupies to the ISF according to an agreement they will make with the transitional authority until they are withdrawn completely from Gaza, save for a security perimeter presence that will remain until Gaza is properly secured from any resurgent terror threat. 17, 18, 19, and 20. In the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. Well, why don't we start first with banning the schools in the Palestinian Authority and in the Gaza and Samaria and everywhere else from teaching these young students and young kids as early as 5, 6 years old that Jews are their enemy and that they should martyr themselves to take out the Jews. Why don't we start there, okay? I think that would be a good place to start. While Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be a place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. The United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. Well, first and foremost, I am not a fan of any two-state solution. That's number one. Number two, if you look at recent polling from even 2024, after October 7th and the butchering of Jews, 1,200 plus, the polls literally show that 89% of Palestinians do not think that there was a genocide or a barbaric murder spree on October 7th. 89% feel that way, okay? Let that sink in. Not to mention that, throughout the exact same poll, it said that over 65% of, quote, Palestinians hate Israel and don't want peace with them. 65%, okay? That's a huge number. So we can have this kumbaya, smoking a peace pipe agreement, but let's understand one thing. Palestinians are Hamas. Hamas are Palestinians. There's no difference between the two. And I think people need to not only understand that, but be brave enough to point that out, okay? Because it's the truth. So I'm not thrilled with this. Would I love to see peace? Yeah. On Israel's terms and on the United States' terms. Not on any other terms, okay? And I'll say that proudly. So the bottom line is, what happened here? Let's do a little history, okay? 2005, Ariel Sharon, former Prime Minister of Israel, what did he do? He decided to rip up 21 Israeli settlements in the Gaza Strip, in the Gaza area, as well as 3 or 4 in Samaria and a couple others in the West Bank. Okay? So somewhere around 25, 26, 27 of these settlements were just ripped up. Jews were displaced. Now, why did he do it? Well, obviously, it was for security reasons, but more importantly, it was an olive branch to peace. We'll get out of the area, we'll give you this area, and let's work on peace. How did Palestine and the Palestinians, how did they respond? Guess what they did? They elected Hamas. That's right, less than a year later in 2006. And guess what? They've been in power ever since. You don't negotiate with terrorists, you fucking kill them. That's what you do. So what happened to Ariel Sharon? Was he given a Nobel Peace Prize for trying to gain peace with these terrorists? No, you know what happened? He had a massive stroke. And he lasted 8 years in a vegetative comatose state until he died in 2014. So, I tell you that for a reason. You don't negotiate with terrorists. You allow Israel to finish the job. You wipe out all the Hamas fighters. You wipe out all of them, every single one of them. Then, when they're all gone and all the hostages are released, then you work on something like this. This is premature, number one. And number two, there's too many moving parts to this thing. Way too many. If there's one person on earth that could actually get this done, yes, I will give you that. It is absolutely President Trump. Nobody else could even dream of getting close to any type of a peace deal between Israel and Palestine. Almost impossible. They've tried. And what happened? Anwar Sadat, gone. Right? So many others have been killed trying to do this. No one's even gotten close. So, forgive me for my skepticism, but I just feel like there's too many moving parts here, and we're giving up too much, even in negotiations here. And they don't have a choice. We have, as President Trump likes to say, quote, the cards. Okay, we have the cards, and Israel has the cards. And if there's going to be peace in the Middle East, it's going to be on our terms, not on anything else. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.